Hello and welcome to another Writerly Witterings with some excellent coffee from the Espresso Shop, who sent me this wonderful 5-bean tweak to try out. 5-bean tweak. It is very good coffee. Anyway, today, because I thought it would be interesting to do something that wasn't directly fountain pens, I thought I'd give you a little bit of a history on writing books, which isn't really a history, but it's always useful to know what's the best writing paper if you've got fountain pens. So today we're talking writing paper. So what have we here? We have some writing papers and we have some little writing stationery things that you could hold your writing paper in, which is a nice idea. I like this kind of thing. But the trouble is, this, for example, is a nice Morocco leather case, which my father used to own, and he hardly ever used it in recent years. You know why? Because if you get an A5 size notebook like this, it won't fit. It's oversized on every angle. And if you look at the size of it compared to these nice little restraining, whatever you call them, pads, it would have to be that wide to be able to fit. So unfortunately, much though I'd love to continue using his old writing paper holder, I can't. It's very sad. When I was 21, a godfather gave me this, which is a similar design. It's nice leather, it's got a nice interior, and it has exactly the same problem. A notebook of A5 just doesn't fit. As you can see, I can't possibly get it inside the leather tab to hold the paper, and it sticks out top and bottom. Which is, again, really rather irritating. So if anybody watching this knows of a paper supplier that supplies notepads that would fit in something slightly smaller, I'd be very grateful. Now, what do I usually use? I tend to find A5 is a better size of paper for me, and I do like this Crown Mill paper, but it has got a drawback which I'll come to. I also really like Clairefontaine paper. This stuff is very smooth, very crisp and clean looking, very nice. But a little while ago I was given, upside down, this Paper Royale by Rossler Papier. And this is really rather magnificent looking and feeling paper. Comes with envelopes and it is beautifully presented in this little imitation blotter, and the paper itself looks and feels magnificent. So I thought this could be a good time to experiment with it. So let's see what all these papers do. Now, I find when you're going to write something, it's a good idea to have a pen. This is the Conway Stewart that I was playing with last week. It's the model 58 Indiana Jones. Sorry, I haven't got the hat on today. And this pen is just stunning. And why it's stunning for me is because, I must say, Conway Stewart are very kind and sent me a bottle of black ink as well. But what makes this pen so adorable to me is this. Prepared and ready to load ink. Put it in the ink. Shut up the lever. And it sucks ink up. Now, those of you who know me will know that I like quick and easy pens when I'm doing things like reviews, because it makes life so much easier. When I reviewed my inks, I spent a lot of time telling you just how good the TWSBI Go was, because you unscrew the barrel. When the barrel's unscrewed, you put it in some ink, press the plunger down, let the plunger release, screw the back of the barrel back on, and you're ready to go. But this is even faster, because all you do is you unscrew the cap, pull out the lever, put it in your ink, shut the lever, and you're done. That's it. This is probably the most convenient little pen I have ever used in my life. It's wonderful. Having said that, let's have a look at stuff. Now, when you look at writing paper, one popular type of paper always is Tomo River. Here we have some Tomo River. Let's have a quick look. Oh, I like that Conway Stewart Onyx Black ink. Well, it's diamine ink, obviously. I didn't clean that as well as I should have done. Inky fingers yet again. Here is Tomo River. With a Conway Stewart 58 Indiana Jones. Now, you will see here no feathering or bleed through. Or bleeding. It is superb paper, but it has this strange effect which you can see here. Wet ink on it makes it ripple and look really weird. The next thing you'll see is that you can see everything that's written on the other side really rather clearly. And that is why I'm not over keen on Tomo River. When I'm writing, I would like to be able to write on two sides of the paper, because two sides means you use less paper. Fairly simple sort of idea, I think. So let's see how these two actually go. First of all, Crown Mill. Now, this is a sort of yellowish paper. I rather like the colour. It appeals to me. You can always, with these notebooks, pull out a set of lined paper, stick it underneath each sheet, and then you can see lines. Almost all notebooks come with this, which makes it just that little bit easier when you're writing something. So let's say now, the paper is very smooth to write on. It's really rather delightful, and I think you can see there is no feathering or any sort of nonsense with that. It has worked extremely well. If I turn it over, there is quite a lot of shadowing though. When I use this paper, it has to be one sheet at a time, writing on one side only, which is a shame, because it wouldn't have taken too much technology, I'd have thought, to make it much harder. I should just say, one thing I noticed about this broad nib in the Conway Stewart is it is a real gusher. So if I try to write similarly with the pen that is a fine nib, it's a Visconti, so it's still a bit of a gushing pen. It works beautifully smoothly on this paper. Again, looking at it, oddly enough with this ink, there is some feathering which you can see here on the bottom of the F, and you can see here, which is disappointing. Turning it over, we have a lot of shadow. So it's fairly clear that the original Crown Mill, much though I love it, is not perfect when it comes to feathering. Although oddly enough, if we look at the Conway Stewart, the signs of feathering are vastly reduced. So it could be partly the effect of the type of ink that I'm using. This, as I say, is Diamine. It's the Conway Stewart Onyx Black. This is the Verdigris from Rohrer und Klingner. And it definitely gives a lot more, even though that's a fine nib, and so therefore logically you'd expect a bit less ink going through, it doesn't work as well. So Crown Mill for me looks beautiful, but actually doesn't win. Triomphe, good French name from Clairefontaine. And you can see from that there is absolutely no feathering whatsoever on either of these two inks. The white means that the writing does stand out particularly well, I think. And if we turn it over and have a look, yes, there is shadowing. The Clairefontaine is less intrusive than the original Crown Mill. Now that could be partly that the white just makes it less obvious. I don't know. But certainly here you can see spots coming through quite distinctly. I would say that the Crown Mill paper definitely does not work as well with a fountain pen. The Clairefontaine Triomphe is infinitely better. Now, let's see what the Paper Royal from Rochler Papier works like. I must admit, I really like this presentation box. I think that's very, very neat. However, it is a little large to fit on my standing desk, so I'm going to move something out of the way there. There go all my cross pens. How very sad. Out of the way. Now, this paper feels rather stunning, actually. I haven't used this before. You saw me breaking the seal on it, so this is very much a first look at this paper. Schreibpapier für die besondere Correspondence, etc. Not as smooth as the Clairefontaine. Bit toothy. But nothing wrong with that. Feels very good. Let's just check the paper with my other standard, my Skylight from Visconti. Now, there is just a little bit of feathering here on the G of Gorgeous, but really nothing to speak of with the Conway Stewart. Oh, a little bit there. Isn't it strange how some papers, and I suppose the most expensive are classic examples of this, where you get certain areas across the paper where they will work less well than others. This doesn't feel as though it's acting as blotting paper. If you rest a pen on it, then you can usually tell how bad the feathering is. That's one of the things I usually do with new paper, is just put a dot on and see. The feathering is definitely not good. Turning it over. Ah, yes. That really is impossible to use that as a second sheet, isn't it? Which is a great pity, because this paper, I think, is not just rather elegant. I like the sort of greyish blue colour. It is not as smooth as the Clairefontaine here. In fact, it's about the same smoothness as Crown Mill. Crown Mill feels slightly smoother, but only very, very slightly. And now let's see, how can I show watermarks? Let's just see. I think you can see here that you can tell there have been graduations along and lots of lines vertically, which is fine. That's nice. The Crown Mill, on the other hand, says original Crown Mill quite clearly as a watermark, which I think is tasteful. I like that. The Clairefontaine basically could be photocopier paper. There's nothing in there at all, which I think is a shame. This isn't cheap paper, and it would not cost them much to put in a little bit of an example of a watermark. And that, to me, you see, just adds a little something to the paper. Likewise this, with those lines. It shows that there's been some effort put into the manufacture. I hope that was interesting. I was surprised with the amount of bleed through I was getting with all these types of paper. I really like all of these. I think the Crown Mill paper looks and feels wonderful until you write on it with a fountain pen, at which point it bleeds through appallingly badly. I think that the Clairefontaine paper is wonderful, except it does look like photocopier paper. The Paper Royale fails in a couple of ways, but it has a big saving grace that it's a good size. I love the colour. It does show watermarking, which I think is good, and it's a very convenient package with envelopes included for taking away when you're going on a trip. So I think this is likely to be taken with me on a trip, and I'm absolutely certain I've got to find a similar sized notepad, if possible a similar sized notepad that's small enough to fit into my old man's Morocco writing case, because I just like this. I want to be able to use it. And the idea that every flaming notebook nowadays is too damn big for it really irritates me. So I'm going to have to see if I can find a solution to that. I hope that was interesting. This coffee's wonderful. Thanks a lot to Espresso Coffee Company. That was really nice. And apart from that, that is my lot for today. Next week I'm going to be talking about a Conway Stewart Model 100, which I'm really looking forward to because I haven't used one of them before. And I'll probably talk about the additional items Conway Stewart send you, because I keep forgetting to talk about these, but it's really rather a nice little package, including lots of stuff that's good. So, I hope that was interesting. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks especially to all those of you who have now boosted this channel to over 6,000 subscribers, which is a huge surprise. I was only on 2,000 at the beginning of the year and it suddenly rocketed up. So thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to help support the channel, go to the bottom, there's a Patreon link, you know the rules. And like it, subscribe it, share it, all that good stuff. And apart from that, I'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.